Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin and welcome back to Rushcast. We are on episode 5 and my voice just went. And this week we are carrying on. We are doing the Rush back catalogue. We are doing an album each show, working our way album by album, and we will be stopping by on the way with solo albums and side projects. But this week we are doing a farewell to Kings. How you doing, Paul?
I'm good, thanks, Joe. Are you good?
I'm fantastic. I am back from work, as are you.
Yes.
For those that don't know, me and Paul do work together. And check out Paul's band, as always, Audio Scope. Check out their debut album, Secrets and Lies, which is currently working on the difficult follow-up.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you got any gigs coming up as well with your other bands? And
at the moment, no. We should have one next month, but it's not been confirmed as such. So waiting for that. But that's it. It's hardly a world tour, so gives me time to recuperate. You know.
One thing I've never asked you is, what was your first Rush album? Like, what was the first?
Well, it's strange you should say it. I had albums on tape, but this is
the first new one? Yeah, the one that you were there on release date. Like you
right.
went up here and there, but what was?
Right. Well, the first one I got into Rush between Hemispheres and Permanent Waves. So it was Permanent Waves was the first new Rush album that I bought. But the first actual Rush album I bought is this album, A Farewell.
Oh, okay.
This is the first one I actually bought. I had ones on tape, but to actually get hold of the album, I bought this for the princely sum, if memory serves me, was £3.99. And there it is, the full vinyl.
Oh.
That's it, the vinyl. And I've pulled this out because the lyrics are bigger, so I can see. But yes, this was the first actual Rush album I bought.
So again, this is as usual, Paul. Yours is bigger than mine. Is that?
It's exactly the same. It's a gatefold sleeve. You've just got I have got it on CD as well, but I never got rid of the vinyl.
This one as well. I haven't. This box, because I basically bought all these box sets, didn't I? Where you put it together and not all of them, but some of them have a DVD of the album on. I don't know what it's on, but it's a DVD audio. And, I've not listened to it, but I'll tell you what would be cool though, because I might have to kick my son out of his bed one night. I'll go, right, you can jump in with mum, but and I'll put this on his PlayStation. I don't know, because he's got a PlayStation 5. My other one's got the 4. But my first PlayStation, the original PlayStation, if you put a CD in, it used to just bring up all these light visuals that reacted to the music. It was really cool.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, I wonder if it does the same thing. But,
you'll have to try that out.
But I've not listened to it yet. But I have, so I've got this in the box set. But I did get this. Is this the 40th? It's an anniversary edition, anyway.
Oh, is that got the live? That's got the live stuff as well, isn't it?
So this is the first the album on disc 1, and then over 2 discs you've got Live at Hammersmith Odeon, 1978, 20th of February, and then at the end of that you've got Xanadu, covered by Dream Theater, Closer to the Heart, covered by Big Wreck, Cinderella Man, covered by The Trues, Madrigal by Alan Johannes, I think that is, and also Cygnus X2. Blah, blah, blah. He's covering that as well. I've not heard of Alan Johannes. I hope I pronounced that right. I've not actually heard of him, but I did give Xanadu by Dream Theater a whirl, and
I must admit, I've never heard it.
I've got to say, if Giddy and Alex do decide to do a tour, not under the Rush, but you could do it Lee Liveson or the answer is always, that if Queen can sell out Wembley Stadium without Freddie Mercury, I'm sorry, all bets are off. But if they did decide to play again, I do think Mike Portnoy is the one. I think he is.
Mm-hmm.
There could be others, but maybe they could get a couple. I doubt many drummers would turn it down. Maybe they could get a couple of different drummers, and then and then it's not, it's kind of tasteful then. But that's what Ronnie James Dio's band does. His last lineup, band lineup, would go out as Dio Disciples, but they have a couple of singers, so it's it's not like, oh, we're touring with him and he's no, it's, and the singers change every tour as well. They change, and I saw that with it was Tim Owens, who was in Judas Priest. He's done a couple of albums with Yngwie Malmsteen, a bunch of other metal bands, and Toby Jepson, who was in a band in the 90s called Little Angels. Don't know if you remember them.
Oh, I've heard the name,
He's now in a band called Wayward Sons, who are doing pretty well. He does a show on Planet Rock as well. So it was them two. So they sort of came out together as a duet. Then one went off. One did a couple of... Then he came on. They do the duet. The other one goes off. Then he carries on. And then they... Yeah, it just didn't change. So it just kept it going.
Yeah.
But and then every tour they swap and get different singers on, and I thought that was quite a tasteful way of doing it,
Yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, the live show though is fantastic. I mean, I can send you a thing of it, but if you wanted to pick it up as well, in fact,
I think you can get it on Amazon anyway.
Yeah, you can get that cheap enough, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But I have got the book as well. I actually took it to work. I did intend on reading it, but I completely forgot until just now. But look, the it's just packed with information and write-ups and all the rest of it. So yeah, definitely worth investing in, and I think it's a reasonable price as well. So
yeah, I think they're doing that on quite a few of their albums.
I like the revamped artwork as well.
Yeah, it is. It's they've just sort of upgraded it a little bit, haven't they? Just giving it a slightly different angle and
giving it a different,
definitely. Yeah, sounds good. But
right, so 2112 changed everything for the bands, didn't it, Paul? Not according to Eric on Facebook, but but it was what did they do? They did a pretty extensive tour on 2112. Of course, we got the All the World's a Stage live album. We will be covering the live albums at the end. We're going to do an episode which is dedicated just to the live albums. I have listened to that as well. And yeah, what a monumental set list they had. Even then, they were doing marathon sets.
Yes, well.
And certainly a marathon set with the material they had. But and yeah, without stopping for breath, they've flown over to England. To Wales, and
yes, Wales, yeah.
And got straight to work on a new album. This was recorded over 3 weeks. And yeah, it's onwards and upwards continuation. Really, they're just pushing.
Yeah, definitely.
See how far they can go. There isn't a one song that takes up the entire side like 2112, but there are 2 big epics on the album. I suppose. What's your thoughts on the album before we get into the music, or what's your thoughts on the setup and lead up to the album?
Well, again, this one really was an album. In many ways, it was a first, wasn't it? It was their first under their new deal that they had complete freedom to go which any way they chose and explore musical ideas and themes and that with no external interference. And of course the other first, which you've already mentioned, they were the first album that they recorded outside of Canada, because all the previous four were recorded at Toronto Sound. So it was a first for them to record in a different country.
It was the same producer though, wasn't it?
Yeah, still Terry Brown. And although it was, I think it's engineered by a guy called Pat Moran as well. He got involved. But this was at the Rockfield Studios in Wales. And then it was mixed at Advision Studios in London. So it, they were breaking new ground and this was another step on, really. And I think for me, listening to this, it's an album I really love. It is a nice album, and the playing, and I think just the atmosphere of this album, there's that sense of freedom with it.
Yeah.
It sort of comes across in the way they sort of play it. And of course, a first is a bigger role for synthesizers on this album, and Geddy's playing more keyboards on this, and Neil Peart has expanded his kit to have all these sort of percussions, glockenspiels and orchestral bells and tubular bells, vibra slaps, and he's really expanded on that side. And then of course the other thing with this is they started using the excuse me, I think you've gone was the bass pedal synthesizers, the bass pedal synthesizers as well. But it's not just Geddy, it's Alex as well. They were both using them in the recording of this. So it's they're again just increasing their palette with all these various textural and tonal.
Yeah, they made a point of introducing new instruments into the mix as well. They had to learn new instruments.
Yeah, they did, and certainly Geddy and Neil did. Alex, as I did get involved a little bit more with the bass pedal synthesizers, but Alex is always quite busy on these anyway. I liked it, and I really enjoyed this album. Starts differently to all their previous albums. I know we had the swirl of the synth coming in for 2112, but with every Rush album, it's always been electric guitar
in the ground running.
Yeah. Whereas
Straight
this
out
is starting off with the title track of Farewell to Kings with this lovely classical guitar that starts the whole thing off, and then you get that nice little keyboard melody coming in over the top, which is augmented by Peart with I think it's orchestral. I thought it was a glockenspiel, but it may well be an orchestral set of bells or something with it.
Yeah.
And it just gives it that slightly different, actually quite a joyous, light sound, very, very nice indeed. And then you're straight in with the guitar, and they're all in together.
And it just guides in nicely, doesn't it? It's almost like a car going up in gears.
Yeah.
It just builds up, doesn't it, nicely? It just doesn't bam, ba-da, and then da-da-da-da-da, Yeah. And let's I've just got to read this out. So when they turn the pages of history, when these days have passed long ago, will they read of us with sadness for the seas that we let grow? We turned our gaze from the castles in the distance, eyes cast down on the path of least resistance. Oh, Neil.
Yes.
If only you could see. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Indeed.
He knew back then.
Yeah. I think mankind has still got a lot to learn, and certainly hasn't learned any lessons as such.
Yeah.
I was thinking that as I was reading, as you were reading them out, and I was looking at them here. Indeed. I mean, with Peart on this one, he's having a go, really, isn't he? again, it's, what does it say here? The lyric to this song, damning indictment of the establishment and society of the time, criticising hypocrisy and greed of the powerful, scheming demons dressed in kingly guise, and the masses are not left untarnished by Piat's venomous pen either, and basically saying what you just quoted.
Yeah.
It's it's he's really he's really on form here, I think, on this album with his lyrics. Superb, absolutely superb.
I mean, it's everything you want in a Rush album opener as well. I regular listeners, I do apologise. I know you've heard this one before, but I've said this many a time on Maidencast. I always say an album opener should be like the first 5-10 minutes of a James Bond film. I think an album should be like a James Bond film. So James Bond films always start with that little 5-10 minute. It's almost like a separate story in a way.
Yeah.
With that action bit, and then with little thing, and then a big stunt and then that sets the tone. Here we go. And then you get your opening credits, and then the film actually starts. But you get that little introduction at the beginning, and I think an album opener should be like that. I think we should really get into the nitty gritty on the second song, but the first song is just hello, welcome to the show. Wake up, you at the back. And this is perfect. It's got everything you want in a Rush song, and it's almost like they've gone, right, let's sum everything up we've done so far. This is like your recap, because it goes everywhere. You've got this beautiful little introduction which you spoke about. You've got this great opening riff. You've got great lyrics. Great chorus, beautiful little jam bit where it just goes off on a little tangent and just goes off on one. It's like, right, Russia here, like anything can happen. And then they just perfectly bring it back round to the chorus and then to those opening notes, like full circle. And then that's your 10-minute, well, not 10-minute, but that's your little James Bond introduction. It feels like they've skied off the mountain.
Yeah.
The Canadian flag, in their case, has come out as a parachute. And
No, it is. It's actually quite a grand opener, really. As I say, when you get that power coming back in, and it's quite a big chord progression, and it descends, and that's in that time there. I mean, I had to read this to sort of thing, but there's subtle shifts in time signatures all through that bit as well. And it's just done so cleverly that it's just nice and seamless. It just really feels really good. And I like Alex's guitar on this, because although it's powerful, he's experimenting with different sort of sounds with pedals and effects and stuff like that, which is something he would become really renowned for, because he just built that up and up and up as time went on. So I liked it because it just felt very different, and it feels very different to what 2112 was in that respect. It's just got that slightly more I don't know, it's just breathing a little bit more, I guess. And what we've heard, Geddy's vocals as well, a lot of power, a lot of energy in them. And again, I think he's really handling the lyrics extremely well and really bringing them to life. Just my opinion, of course, but I liked this, a good opening song, and it's a title track. And I like that middle section because it almost goes into like slightly jazzy, with the interplay between the drums and the bass.
And normally when a rock band starts getting a bit jazzy, it's normally a signal of the end.
Well, yeah.
But normally when someone goes, I thought I'd throw a bit of jazz in the mix or something. That's
it's not so much.
We're in Black Sabbath never say die territory at that point.
It's very clever. I mean, there's a lot of there's an awful lot of ghost in between the actual hits, and nice little chokes on the hi-hat, and then Geddy with that very nice sounding bass, and then Alex solo sort of comes in over the top of it, and it's really, and that just sort of gradually opens up, and then you've got them accents. It just sort of almost tripping over. Yeah, it's just almost tripping over itself before it sort of just opens out again. It it just.
I think as well. I mean, you could say it's understated, but it's just obvious as well. But it's something that how tight Geddy and Neil are on those little bits, because as much as he's going, you know, he's giving it like he's playing, he's on those strings just as much as Neil was on the drums.
Oh yeah,
those little fills he does, and those little, you know, this little typewriter, little fills, and it's those little things that just, if you know, he's on the bass doing just the same, and them two together. And normally, you know, with a rock band as well, you've got the singer at the front, the guitar, the bass player's sort of 2 steps at the back with the drummer syncing with him. But no, not them two. They, you know, it's again, it's such a tight little package, and where they're a 3-piece, they don't get the credit that they get as a 3-piece. You know,
no, they don't. No.
You know, and even when it's live as well, you could get away with, you know, they're multi-layering the guitars, and maybe they need a second guitarist on this. No, they keep it as it is as well, you know.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think that, again, I can't remember when in their history, I think there was talk about getting a rhythm guitarist in, but then they went the way of technology, and that's when they started using like samplers and sequencers and stuff like that to bring in extra guitar bits and that, which would be activated manually with pedals and stuff like that. Rush were very clever in, they went used the technology, and actually it pushed the technology to be able to cater for that sort of thing. And that's something that is, when you see them live, not just pressing pedals, but they're actually bringing in certain sequences and stuff like that. And certainly in later times. And I remember Peart commenting on this when it came to rehearsing. He would be playing, he's the timekeeper playing. He said, but then at some point metronomic time comes in, so he has to set up for that, and they would sort of come in and out of a song. So he had to make sure that he had the tempo absolutely nailed so that it was seamless, which is really what a discipline in itself to do that. So it's not just a case of performing it, you're having to actually get through all these little logistics that really add up.
He can't get into it and you know, speed up. He has to keep that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying it was every song, but there were certainly certain songs where things would come. It was important to do that, because he said, you know, if you're slightly too slow or too fast, and then that comes in, you sort of think it's all wobbly, and you think, well, what's going on here? But that's the professionalism of them as a band, and of the man himself. You know, Peart was absolutely on it all the time.
Because these songs, it is one little brick isn't in place, the whole thing will fall down, you know. I need to stop saying at the end of everything. I've caught myself doing that.
I think we all do things like that, Joel. Don't too much about it.
What was I saying? I've lost my train of thought now.
The last thing you said was about if one brick's not in place, the whole thing could fall down like a deck of cards.
Yeah, really, exactly. And they were just such a tight band, you know. And I just did it again. Yeah. Right, let's move on to the next song. So I think this next song is a masterpiece.
It is. It's a fantastic song. It really is a great song.
It's just that atmospheric build up, and then when it just kicks in with that riff,
and it's the big accents. Yeah,
it's just euphoric, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
If that could be put into words, that's what you would have on your gravestone.
Yeah, it is really, and it just sounds so big. It's just a big sound, and just sets up that mood at the beginning. And you got the sound of well, it's wildlife, farmyard animals, or whatever, and that's lovely. And then you're getting all the chimes coming in, and the big temple blocks that hitting away. It just works.
So what the lyrics to this? Let's talk. Xanadu is the reference to Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
But it's also based on a poem as well, I believe.
It is. Yeah, it's a poem. Samuel Taylor Coleridge poem, Kubla Khan. I remember reading it, but it was a long time ago, and I must admit,
have you ever seen Citizen Kane?
I have, but again, a long time ago.
Often cited as the greatest film ever made, when everyone knows really the greatest film ever made is Three Men in a Boat. But no, it's one of those films you sort of have to watch. But it was good for its time, I suppose. I mean, there's lots of camera work. I don't know. They didn't use at the time. I mean, but yeah, Xanadu is the I forget the character's name, but he is this basically his own Disneyland, really, isn't it? It's kind of like the original Michael Jackson house or whatever. And doesn't he has his own zoo, and Xanadu is his home. Yeah. And the film opens with Xanadu's just abandoned, isn't it? It's shut up and no one's buying it, and then it's the tale of this owner of this house and their rise and fall, really, isn't it? And,
yes, it is.
But what was the connection between that and the poem? Does it say it in that book? Did you look into it? It put you on the spot or anything? But
no, not really. I think it just it's just about. I mean, he's gone. It's more to about. It says Coleridge's imagined world of legendary palaces and immortality.
Right. Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
which is obviously, and that's really, I think, the sort of whole thrust of this. I mean, I dare say there could be others out there who can read so much more into this, but it's that's the way it comes across anyway. I mean, it to stand within the pleasure dome decreed by Kubla Khan, to taste anew the fruits of life, the last immortal man, to find the sacred river Alf, to walk the caves of ice, and I will dine on honeydew and drink the milk of paradise. I mean, just very, very. It just paints a picture, doesn't it? And and then 1,000 years have come and gone, but time has passed me by. Stars stopped in the sky. Yeah, it's just it's almost the weariness of immortality.
Yeah,
but it's not. It basically, okay, you can be immortal, but it's not everything it's cracked up to be. I think it's basically how it comes across.
As is,
it can be a prison.
As is like living in a palace. I think. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Sayings is if you got a house with 12 bedrooms, you got to buy 12 sets of curtains. It's, And I remember speaking to someone, or someone I know speaking to someone about, I want to get a country house. Like, where do I get one of these? These are, this is where I want to be. I've made it and the owner of this country house, she went, no, this is the last thing you want. I mean, I inherited this fucking thing, and it's a headache. There's always something going wrong. Always something that needs fixing, and you can't get a replacement because they don't make it anymore.
Yeah,
and it's
so it's going to cost you.
No, you don't want it.
Yeah, the maintenance costs are going to be absolutely sky high, which is a massive
drain. It's Michael Jackson. Where did he? Was it Wonderland? He called it, or even better is Elvis Presley Graceland.
Yeah.
He had this beautiful house, and he could have anything he wanted. It was there.
Yeah.
But he couldn't leave.
Yeah.
It's
and that's sort of
yeah.
It's basically it can be a prison of your own making. That's the problem. And what looks like a utopian scenario is actually no, it's not. And it's actually quite limiting. It's more like a cage than you're imprisoned, basically, aren't you? So and that's sort of how it comes across to me in these lyrics. It's just, but brilliant musically. I mean, so we've talked about the intro, just really, and I mean, they spend a long time on that intro before it kicks in. I mean, they really are taking their time, and then of course it kicks in brilliantly.
I mean, it's an 11-minute song, but that 11 minutes,
it
flies by.
It doesn't feel like it.
And I've always said as well, that's the sign of a good long song, is that you don't notice that it's long. And I remember when I was in college forming bands and playing in bands, there was always that band that wanted to be told.
Yeah.
And it would never work because the last track on the album is 15 minutes long, and this is what song we're working on, and we're doing it, and we're tweaking it, so that 15-minute long song, they wrote that and played it and jammed it and then they crunched it and cut that bit off and added that bit on and then they played it through and recorded it or whatever, and then Toll went, bloody hell, that song's 15 minutes long. Like that you don't try to write a 15-minute song.
No, you don't.
That's and I think Xanadu is a perfect example of that. I think that song just naturally grew, and then it was when they took a step back, I went, oh,
yeah. I think when you
again, right from now on, audience, every time I say you can have a shot, and by the end of the show, you should be obliterated. So,
we've all got our little catchphrases, I guess, haven't we? So, I mean, I always say, "Oh, that's interesting," So it just, but it is. That's the thing I like about this song is that yes, okay, it's 11 minutes, but it just feels very organic to me. There's doesn't sound contrived or anything in any way to me. It is what it is, and that's how it's come out.
And that's the beauty of Rush as well, is when you go, oh, here's an album with 4 songs, and the first song's 20 minutes long, and they're technical and they're really good musicians, and you just picture this in your head, you're thinking, oh god, this is going to be a crap album, and the drummer's the best drummer in the world, and you're going, 20-minute technical song changes, you're not selling me this album, mate. But no, Rush are nothing like that. It's the best form trying to be Rush that go like that. But it's as complicated and weird and mad and out there as Rush get. They're never, what's the word? They're never like intimidating, or they're never impenetrable. They're never, when you get like a classic book, like a Shakespeare, like something like that, where the language is different, and it's I just did it again. You try to. It's always palatable. It's always easy. It's always effortless to listen. As much as you're sitting there going, God, that must be.
Well,
how did they play that, or how did they segue in from that to that? But it's always seamless. It's always tasteful, and it's always again.
Yeah, but there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and I think we talked about it on the last podcast, was that Rush have that great way of drawing a straight line through complex music, and Peart has always sort of tried to do that, because he said you've got to give the listener something to hold on to anchor onto. He said, and that's what it is, and that's why he always said, I always try to hold on to a 4/4 for as long as possible. And if it's a case I've got to add a beat or drop a beat later on, then so more. That's it. You do that because he said it draws the listener in. And they're sort of saying, we want people to be drawn in, sort of come and listen to this weirdness and see what you think. So again, it just goes to show just how really clever they were at getting complex things, making them complex, but then making them simple again to something that's very accessible.
Yes,
I think
it's all
it was all about making it accessible to people to listen to it and to get it. And that's. No, I've just said it now. Yeah,
that's
it's just
interesting.
it's there you go. It, and that's something that they've always done. They always did. I say done. They always did it, and but I think that's just one of the things that just made them set them apart, really, from a lot of bands.
So yeah, moving on. That's side one done, and we're only 2 songs in. And this is another, the genius that is Rush.
Yeah.
They under pressure to produce, a radio single or more palatable, accessible music, and yet they make a hit with an album with a whole side taking up one song, and they've gone, here you go, have that. Mm-hmm. But they do it again with this second album. You've got these 2 massive compositions, but straight in the middle of the album is their biggest hit. The next song actually charts. So the record label again are happy with what they get. So next up we get, arguably, not saying it's their best, but it is their most successful single, is Closer to the Heart. And I think this is it's a beautiful song. Some things are cliche for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame that to a lot of people, maybe the casual fan, a greatest hits wonder, shall we say, this is probably the only song off this album they know, and they're missing out. But Closer to the Heart. What a fantastic.
It is. It's a little gem, this one. I mean, it's under 3 minutes.
I mean, it's not even 3 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. It's under 3 minutes, and just again, wonderful playing. But again, just such an accessible way. I mean, just the way the guitar comes in with it. It's really quite a beautiful guitar pick, very melodic, and again, great lyrics. And Geddy sings it extremely well. And of course, this. Oh no, I'm backtracking slightly, but of course, it's sort of been pushing to this from A Farewell to Kings when it says, the very last line, can't we find the minds to lead us closer to the hearts? And so it's already setting up Farewell to Kings sort of links into Closer to the Heart. It's just a little arc there. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely song. And yes, it did. It was in the top. It charted in the top 40 here in the UK. I don't know what it was, where it charted in America. I'm talking about the single. I don't know where it charted in America, but here in the UK, I think it got to number 36. So,
the record sales are nice, but I think Rush's bread and butter was always ticket sales, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Yeah. And really their album sales as well. That was.
Well, no, actually no, because I said this on the first episode. Didn't I? Actually went through their record sales, and
they wouldn't have existed if they didn't sell anything. So
yeah, exactly.
Exactly, you've got to sell to keep going. So it's chicken and egg situation, I think.
But they were never. They were never, the number one and
no
big platinum. But bit by bit overall the whole catalogue, and
Mm.
no Rush fan has one or two albums. Everyone has the whole collection, so
Yeah.
there's that as well. And I think investing in the Rush back catalogue, if you can invest in the back catalogue, it would have been like a nice little premium bond or an ISA, and it's one of those put it away, forget about it, and let it grow over time. I'm trying to think of the right one. Trust fund, is that something like that? I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just a lovely little song, isn't it? And do you ever get as well with the bells of that boom boom boom?
Oh, the tubular bells.
Do you ever get Christmas vibes from that? I always get a little bit. I think if you had a Christmas playlist, say you had a Christmas party or something, if you just slotted in closer to the heart in there, it would. I don't think it would turn any heads.
Possibly, probably not. It's I think if he started using sleigh bells and that, then yes, it would have been totally there. It was so it is a little gem of a song. Nice solo in it, really nice solo, and lovely syncopations with the bass and the drums again behind it, and as I say, little bits of percussion. Got the vibra slap on the main accents during the solo, just gives it that slightly different flavour. It really very, very, very clever. And
I think as well, where we've just had an 11-minute epic as well, this is just a nice little
it's a
nice little palate cleanser.
That basically it just totally opposite and just short and sharp, to the point. No extended pieces. It's just what it is. Really works well. A massive crowd favourite, this one, and they did play it on a lot of tours, and I think they rested it on. Oh, it was dropped for most of 2002's Vapor Trails tour because, according to Neil Peart, we got sick of it. He said, but they played it on an awful lot of tours.
Well, and for a song that's under 3 minutes and the marathon sets that they would play, I guess there's no.
No, and there are various live versions of it. There are bits where they might extend it slightly and sort of go into vamping it a little bit in places and all this sort of stuff. They would play around with it a little bit, I think, just to keep it interesting for themselves. So it's one track that crowd participation, the amount of people that would sing this. Geddy really didn't have to sing it. They just really, they would just take over and just sing it to the band, sort of thing. So it's it was always a high point in the show and always a crowd pleaser. So it's a win-win, as they say.
I was talking about this band the other day, King's X. Have you heard?
King. Yeah.
There's a song.
Is it? I say you'll have to excuse my ignorance. I know it says King's X. Does that stand for King's Cross?
It might.
I've
never thought about it.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Is that what it?
But yeah, this is the second track on the first album, Goldilocks. Yeah, I've got a live album of them in London, funny enough, and they say in the liner notes, we were playing clubs and playing struggling like every band does at the beginning. They said England, the UK they got us. We were struggling everywhere else, and when we went to the UK, entire tour sold out. We only had one album, and everyone knew the album inside out. It was the most effortless. So when it came to recording the live album, we said no, we're going to go to London because that was they were the first to take us on. And when it came to Goldilocks, they don't sing it; they just play the whole thing. And it's a live album, but you just hear the crowd, every word. Yeah, so. I mean, it's nice when it happens. I mean, I saw Judas Priest once, and they did Breaking the Law, and Rob Halford just put the mic in the stand and went, spun it round.
Yeah, just turned it round to the crowd.
Yeah, just yeah.
But it gives him a rest
Yeah.
for a start, doesn't it? You know, and just but again, them sort of things, yeah. And you remember those things if you go to a gig and see them. You think, oh yeah, that's when we, because obviously the band is still playing, and brilliant, yeah. This was one of those songs, definitely for Rush anyway. So yeah, lovely number, really nice number. Yeah, not really much more to add to it, really. Just
So let's move on. Cinderella Man.
yeah.
Yeah. What do we think of?
Oh, again,
This was a. I did have the meaning for this one as well somewhere.
right.
It slipped my mind now. There was a
Yeah.
Russell Crowe film as well, wasn't it, called Cinderella Man? Wasn't it about a boxer that?
It was.
I don't think this is about that, but
No. Well, this is the one. The lyrics are by Geddy Lee,
oh right, yeah.
Cinderella Man, and he was inspired to write this. And again, I'm going by the notes in this book, to write this song after watching a 1936 Frank Capra film, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town.
Yes, I knew it was based on a film.
Yeah. Yeah, in which the protagonist inherits a huge sum of money, only to be declared insane after deciding to use it for good causes and helping the poor. So, and it just.
I'm halfway through at the moment reading Catch 22, and there's a lot of funny little things like that throughout that book as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was the most helpful man on the squadron, apart from the people he actually helped.
yeah. Yes, yeah. I think that the book says, or people who wrote the book said, this song is arguably the strongest lyrical effort from Lee at this point. While the piece is in some ways a perfunctory description of the film, it's certainly a more ambitious effort than things like Need Some Love, which Lee had written on the very first album. So there is again a movement, isn't there? It's and it's quite folky again. I think again it's that guitar, the acoustic guitar, with this, and it's quite a laid back chorus.
Yeah, it
sort of flips it round.
Yeah, rather than nice and soft on the verse and then building up to a big choppy chorus, it's the other way round. Yeah.
It's
it's got that main riff running through it, the old and then dun bum bum bum, but yeah, then slows down for the chorus, and then of course you got a little jammy bit in the middle. You always get that with a Rush song, but yeah, it's a pretty typical Rush ditty, really. It's and I mean that in a good way. It just carries the album on nicely, really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
we've had that nice little palate cleanser with Closer to the Heart. This one just picks things up a bit and moves us on.
Yeah, indeed, and I think certainly that middle section. I mean, Piet is quoted here saying that, and I think he quotes this on the Farewell to King's tour book. When he said this one features a very unusual for us middle instrumental section that might even be called Shudder in brackets funky, you know, and which I can see what he's getting at actually. Yeah, it is because the bass is quite up front with that, and just the way the drums play along with that, and then Alex coming in over the top with this sort of like those soaring little bits of lead and then little quick bits. It's again just a slightly different style, putting it into that rock mold, which is something they became very, very, very famous for. Putting different musical styles.
I mean, you could say funky. Yeah, I don't think Wild Cherry were too worried.
No, no, no. I think I don't know whether how Pierce was saying this, but you only see what's written in black and white. He could have been saying that with a massive smile on his face,
Yeah.
and very much tongue in cheek. But I think that again, it's something that he has said, or he said on more than one occasion. The thing is, all three of them were a band of fans. They liked listening to other styles of music, and then thinking, oh, is there something we could do that sort of, or they'll have a song and a problem to solve it. So, well, what about if we tried something like that? And then they would do it. And they said, and obviously, everyone's got their own style. So, Rush is funky, parlayed through their style wouldn't be exactly the same as something like Wild Jerry, you know, or if you want to go sort of rock funk, things like Red Hot Chili Peppers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was never ever going to be out and out funk, but their take on it, you know.
Yeah. So moving on, then we've got another nice little song.
Yeah.
Madrigal.
Madrigal, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think of this as an introduction to Sickness, but I don't. It's not. But
It's not. No.
You'd be forgiven for thinking.
Again, now this is the shortest song on the album.
Yeah, because it does feel like a little intro piece.
It is actually. Yeah, it's shorter than Closer to the Heart. Just over 2.5 minutes. Madrigal. But again, one of Peart's rare love songs. And again, the note on this is, while the band were enjoying unprecedented success at this time, the sustained work schedule began to take its toll. Between touring, writing and recording, the time the band spent with their young families was reduced, necessarily reduced, obviously, because of the workload. I think says here,
it's a tale as old as time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it starts with the sort of fairly dark imagery with the words. I mean, it does definitely paint that picture, doesn't it? I mean,
but we're not that unfamiliar with this style of song with Rush. You know, so far we've pretty much had a folky number on every album so far, haven't we?
Yeah.
And even if it's just sections of like Fountain of Lemeth and things like that. So yeah, we always get a little bit of that on an album so far, and this just feels like that section for me. And again, it's a nice, dreamy, Tolkien-y kind of number, even though it isn't about that, but it sits with those other songs, doesn't it?
It does. In this respect, I think this one is all about. It's basically saying that they miss their families and they miss their loved ones. It's sort of quite pointed at that, isn't it? I mean, was it in vain to search for honour, in vain to search for truth? But these things can still be given. Your love has shown me proof. It is such a short song. They haven't drawn it out. It's quite a simple arrangement, and it's short and sweet, and it's still quite a positive, optimistic ending to it, really, with those lines.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I mean, Rush are actually quite a private band as far as especially
today. Particularly Pierce. He was very, very private.
But we know what happened with Neil. But have the band? Have they been through divorces? Do we know? Like,
no.
I mean, Phil Collins went through a divorce or three, and you knew all about it because you had a whole album of they normally, musicians don't normally hide when they go through, and just again, it just seems that with Rush, they just it was another thing that just seemed to, they nailed it on the head. They had a solid lineup. They were friends.
Yeah,
they find the perfect mix between music progression but keeping it accessible.
Yeah,
they they didn't seem to fall into many traps that other bands fall into. So there's never any history of alcohol abuse or drug abuse.
Yeah.
And they all had successful marriages as well. I mean, it's
yes, they have. As far as I'm aware, I mean,
because apparently that was another contributing factor to the band's success, is that they all did marry young.
Yeah.
And it was, well, no, they had responsibilities. They had to make it work. And I suppose if things did get difficult at home, that was the justification. It's like, well, I'm not having a good, I'm not partying out there. It is work.
Yeah.
As good as work can be.
But I think effectively they were running it like a business. It was their living, and that's what they invested in, and it's obviously something they took extremely seriously.
And when they came home, I suppose they were home. It weren't like Ozzy Osbourne when he comes home from tour.
No, it was straight into family stuff with the kids, and just doing all the things that we do normally. Just probably had to mow the lawn and all this sort of stuff, clean the car.
I am mowing the lawn actually tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's it. It's not the life of rock and roll, but it is life. I think when we go on to the next album, I think there's certain things we can talk about there, because the next album is the one that sort of broke the camel's back effectively, with regards to certain things and how they were doing things. But we'll get on to that. But already, as I say, with regards to the touring and stuff like that, they were spending more and more time away from home, and obviously it was having its effect on them, and obviously missing their families, which is totally natural, totally normal. You
had Iron Maiden did the same with Wasted Years up to that point when Wasted Years was recorded. That was the only personal song they had. Everything else was about either a book or a historical event or a film or whatever, a story of some sort. And that was Adrian Smith, just about being homesick, basically. Right, so we have arrived to the closing epic, Cygnus X1, Book 1. What is the? It's only a 10-minute one actually. So
it's just over 10 minutes, I think. Yeah.
I've got to say, this opening section, so boom, bang, ding,
then
it builds up, and then boom, ba ba bam. Boom, boom, as I was saying earlier, the way Geddy and Neil were really tight, and then Alex joins in with the guitar. When it builds up in layers, but when it gets to where it's going, I'm getting Hendrix vibes on this one. I really do. Like when it comes in, it's just really cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It is cool. I mean, this is science fiction inspired, obviously with the lyrics.
This is part one of a two-part song, and it is a space epic about something to do with black holes.
Yeah, it's the black hole of Cygnus X1. Yeah,
that's the again when a band starts introducing jazz into the mix, it's normally like, oh, here we go. And when it comes to science fiction, I don't know what to do next. I'll tell you what, let's just throw the ship into a black hole.
Yeah, that's it.
We do what we want then.
And
then when things get really fucking weird, we're just, I made it out of the black hole. Right, back to normal now.
No.
How many lulls in the middle of a Star Trek series is black hole?
And then, when it comes to it and they wake up and went, oh, it's all been a dream. But it's their Piet uses something here about this mysterious X-ray source, which actually was discovered by astronomers in 1964, and that the constellation of Cygnus does hold in it one of the strongest X-ray sources detectable here on Earth. And at the time of the composition, it was postulated that the source of these rays was a black hole. And as time has gone on, they say overwhelming evidence has been found to back up this theory, which keeps this song somewhat rooted in reality. Opening with the cryptic passage, the very heavily distorted, disguised voice, that is, I've got written here, I don't know whether you've got it in your book, that is spoken by the band's producer, Terry Brown.
Oh, okay. So
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wondered if it was Neil, but it's not. It's Terry Brown. And then you've got that, like you just said, about the syncopated solo bass line that just gradually comes up in that mix. After all the little bits of special effects and stuff like that comes in, it just really builds up the atmosphere with it, and it's got again you have to really try and listen to it, but there are subtle time signature changes with every repeat of that bass line. But again, Peart just draws a line through it and just draws you in. So it's clever again. I think they describe it as amorphous space rock.
Yeah. Again, in 10 minutes, we get a lot of. Yeah. They cram a lot into those 10 minutes. I thought it was longer than 10 minutes. I thought it was another 20-minute or something like that.
Yeah.
I was surprised just now to see that it was only 10 minutes long. So I can't really go too much into this riff or that riff, because it does sort of go on a journey. But one notable thing was, I did, sitting on a train, I did picture in my head this cool sort of 80s space cartoon. It was maybe some Japanese anime or some. And that's when I thought, I wonder if someone has made a video of it. And yeah, some people have made their own videos to the song. It's normally just footage of the cosmos and surface cameras going over planets' surfaces and things like that. But someone did put together a sort of a collage of. I remember footage from the Black Hole, underrated Disney film, The Black Hole.
Yeah.
Dark Star, the first John Carpenter film, and the other guy, because they made that film together. John Carpenter went on to do his stuff, who I'm a big fan of, and the other guy went on to do something really big. I think he went on to make Aliens or something like that. It wasn't James Cameron, but he was involved in Alien, along with Ridley Scott. I'll have to look that up. Put that in the comments. Help me out, people. Who was the other guy that did Dark Star along with John Carpenter? And he went on to be really successful as well. So yeah, Dark Star, The Black Hole, and 2001 Space Odyssey. Someone made a really cool video of a mixture of bits from that. And it suits it wonderfully. But I'm thinking a cool 80s style cartoon with or maybe a bit of Japanese anime, maybe some cool spaceship going through all cool planets and space station, maybe, or getting sucked into this something. I was picturing this little space opera in my head as I was listening to this. But it's
yes,
maybe if someone got the train to Bangkok and sampled some exotic herbs, this song would be really
yes. It would,
not that we condone that on this channel. No. The only herbs me and Paul indulge in is Earl Grey.
Yeah, herbal tea. Yes, herbal tea and hops. Yeah. But going back to the riff, I mean, it's a great riff, and when you said they're all repeating it and they're playing it in unison, and they've used this riff quite a lot throughout the years and use it in medleys that they would sometimes stitch together and use it as an outro for a live show and stuff like that, because it's very distinct. And
obviously the next album opens with part 2 of this, and the band have done 1 and 2 back to back and done the whole thing together.
Again, that's something we can we'll obviously
We'll
get
cover
on
that.
to.
We'll come to that when we come.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, definitely. But yeah, great riff, and the lyric does cover what it says here: common ground for Rush, another story of an ambitious explorer.
There's not a lot of lyrics in this song, really, though.
No,
Is there?
it's
It does
mostly
tend
music.
to.
Yeah, it's mostly just.
Oh no, I'm looking for the lyric book. No, this is a bit.
Well, it's more narration than
Yeah.
anything else, really. I mean, was it us? For all those who are into their stargazing, I must admit, I quite like looking at the constellations and that. You're getting a few drops in there. Course just east of Lyra, northwest of Pegasus, flew into the light of Deneb, sailed across the Milky Way. On my ship, the Rocinante, which is named after Don Quixote's horse in the novel, and it's basically, it says here, clever piece of foreshadowing, or in brackets, or a stroke of luck. The horse Rocinante was so named because it describes a former nag that is now a magnificent steed. In other words, it's gone through a metamorphosis, a change. And the sequel to this song, which you've already alluded to, describes our pilot or protagonist, whatever you want to call him, his own transformation. So to me, it's more like a sung narration than anything else, really, on this. But it works. The emphasis is more on the music than the lyrics, although they are good anyway. But it's more of a narration. And as you say, it just gradually builds up, doesn't it? It just and it gets more and more intense.
Bam, bam, bam,
Yeah.
bam, 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 bam,
Yeah.
bam.
And it just really, and then that you've got that real. Again, it sounds like they're dueling with one another. The real, yeah, really, they're really pushing it. Really sounds good live. That when you hear that live, that is really.
I think
good.
as well, the song makes more sense live as well.
Yeah, it does.
Have you ever had that where you've listened to an album or band?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what I think of this, and then you go see them live, and all of a sudden, it just it falls into place. So yeah, this makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think on
definitely
definitely
you get that moment.
Well, it's not that you just get that the power of it just really. I mean, you can hear it on the vinyl, the power, but obviously when you're there live
as well, it just demystifies it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It just absolutely, it just grabs you, just really grabs you. Just really good, great sound live. And this one, obviously, the Lee's voice on this one. I mean, he's singing it it's quite laid back until you get at the end, and he's really shrieking them last lines. I mean, really trying to capture what's really going on here. Everything's just basically spiraling out of control. Everything's being torn apart. So you can, I think because he sung the rest of it fairly sort of controlled, this sort of really, when I listened to it, it really sort of leapt out at me. And you think, wow, he's really going for it. He's really singing that high.
Yeah.
You just think, wow, he must have had, I don't know, must have had very tight underwear on that day when he done that, because that is really, it really is high. And but he does shriek. I mean, those last lines, sound and fury drowns my heart, every nerve is torn apart, and that torn apart, he's really, it just, again, it very clever how they sort of pieced all this together and made it work.
He really holds that last note there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really works. And you think that's it, and then you just hear that quiet guitar just gradually come in and then fade out. Sort of basically saying, yeah, there is more to come. But it does say it says on the album sleeve, to be continued. It just it sets it up quite nicely.
So
But
you just imagine being in those jamming sessions. Just it's crazy. Just when you think. I
well,
was having this conversation with a friend the other day about the Beatles. Just
yeah,
how much they've. It's crazy to think today. There's bands that put out an album and then the gap between two albums, and there's a bunch of bands you could do this with, be it U2 or Tool, for example,
yeah,
where this mainstream band, and from that album to that album, the entire Beatles back catalogue could have been released. In that time, the Beatles would have released their entire back catalogue, 12
yeah,
albums they knocked out, including a double album in that time as well.
exactly. Yeah,
63 was Please Me,
yeah,
and then 1970 was Let It Be.
mm,
Although Let It Be was recorded before it was the last one to be released.
yeah.
But yeah, 63 and in 1970 it was all over.
Yeah, it was.
And
They worked hard. It was a
and
lot.
it's the same with Rush. I mean, I don't think it's controversial. I think from from 75 to 85 in that formation that the band take, the evolution that they go through, I think it's up there with the best back catalogues. Yeah.
Well, yeah, indeed. I mean, this is literally.
And they're knocking out an album a year at this point.
Well, they are. That's what I was just about to say. This was it was exactly 1 year on from 2112 being released that they released this album.
Record an album, put it out, 100 gigs.
Yeah.
Straight back in the studio.
Yeah, rehearse, record.
Yeah. Stopped. Yeah.
No, they didn't. It was tour, write, rehearse, record, tour. And that's how Peart describes it in one of the programs I've got on one of the tours. He's saying it was just, you did that and you'd have that window of intense writing and rehearsing and really knocking ideas around. And
so do you think they went, right, let's just leave it and we're going to do part 2 on the next album? Or do you think they were working on it and went, well, no, let's cut it there? Or how do you think has it been said how they did it?
Well, the short answer is I'm not quite sure. But
we can do, that's our homework for this week. I can both do
it could be a case that it
well, they obviously had an idea because they put to be continued.
I think they wanted to continue it, but I think they weren't quite sure how they were going to do it.
Right.
I think that's possibly.
You've got Cygnus part 1 on this album, part 2 on Hemispheres, but they did do it. Didn't they do a trilogy of songs or a 4-part song later on?
Oh yeah,
they did it in reverse. Didn't they start with part 3?
Yeah. It was again, we will end up getting to this. It all kicked off on Moving Pictures with Witch Hunt, which was part 4 of Fear. It was the Fear. It was the Fear quadrilogy, if you want to call it that. I think there's 4 parts of it, and it would be on each album after that, I think. Oh no, the first 3 were, but then it was a long while before they did the part 1, which I think was on. It's on Vapor Trails. I know we're jumping ahead and all over the place.
That's fine. No, but I brought it up because I said this is the first.
Yeah, it's an arc, and it was a deliberate thing to do because obviously stylistically, each one's different from the other ones. Yeah. Each time it was a different era in their journey, sort of thing. Again, 1st of September 1977 this was released. And chart positions, I know it's not about success and it's not about, but at the end of the day, they were shifting albums.
No, we're marking what
exactly. Just to anyone who's listening, at the end of the day, they needed the album sales to be able to continue to do the things they wanted to do. In Canada, number 11,
taking risks like this musically.
Yeah.
If the sales didn't back it up, they were
done. They were finished, and we would have been robbed of a massive back catalogue. We would have been robbed of it. Canada, number 11. The UK, first album in the UK to chart for Rush, number 22, US 33. It was a good seller. It sold very well, and it was hotly anticipated after the success of 2112.
How many people do you think listen to Closer to the Heart? Oh, they're a good band. Give me their album, and then got Farewell Kingsbury. What the hell is this?
Yeah. Why did I?
Yeah.
Why did I buy this? This guy sings so high, and and then on it goes. I like the album. I think it's a very, very good album. It's quite consistent, and as you said, Closer to the Heart is certainly a fan favourite, regarded as a classic. Was played a lot live. Xanadu is definitely a classic and a massive favourite with the Rush fans. Certainly one of my favourites. Again, with that, and we didn't really touch on it. Lovely guitar solo on Xanadu. Really, really nice.
I don't think we need to say
No.
there's a good guitar solo.
No, I know.
Yeah,
it's
Neil's
one of
drumming is really good.
I think it's just one of them solos that you really. It's
I mean,
I remember.
Alex Lifeson as well is in his prime at this point as well.
Yeah, he is,
Every solo he's doing is a little mini masterpiece within a masterpiece.
Yeah.
The band are just on fire at the moment. We are in a golden age of a band discovering themselves, evolving, and a band at their peak.
Yeah.
At the moment, we are in the middle of the golden years.
We are definitely. Yeah, and certainly with Cygnus X1, again another classic. Fans like it an awful lot, and I think possibly it might be perhaps autobiographical with regards to that song, because as the character is going through a black hole and everything's changing, not quite sure what's on the other side, if there is another side of this black hole. I think the three guys themselves, they were probably saying, well, yeah, we're doing this album and we're gonna we don't know what it's going to produce the next time at the moment.
Well, this is this could be a metaphor for a tour.
Yeah,
I say we've got this other song where they're talking about missing their families, and they're probably going, well, I'm going to go on this 120-day trek, going to different continents, different cities every night, and when I come home, when I go through this black hole of aeroplanes and hotels and buses and with these different views buzzing past me 100 miles an hour because I'm in a bus. And when you come back, that's another thing as well. Is what missing your family is one thing, but they must be coming home thinking, who's this little kid?
Yeah,
who was a baby?
Yeah,
when I was here last.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've changed your hair, and this house looks different. Yeah, we've decorated. You don't know what's gone on, do you?
No, exactly. It's yeah. I think again already at this point, I think Peart would famously say that he really didn't like touring that much, but he knew he had to just swallow it and get on with it, because it's. He said really, a band really comes into its own when they play live. That's the, as you said, it's the bread and butter for them,
especially for a band like Rush.
Rush, and again,
I think the great thing about Rush is this is a band. It is organic. The fan base, the way the band grew, it was bit by bit by bit, but it was an organic growth, and it was that. I think it was these brilliant albums that, even with a song like Closer to the Heart and the record companies doing what they can, there is no better advert than a mate saying to another mate, you've got to listen to this,
absolutely.
And especially this is the age of the LP as well, when most kids would be washing cars or working at a local shop or something, or trying to earn some pocket money. I think, what was it? I was listening to a podcast the other day. He would do some chores around his house or something, and his dad would give him a pound or whatever.
Yeah.
And he saved and saved and saved. And what was the album he bought? Oh, what was the album? It's an album we know, but it was something like $8.99 in a record shop. But he said he went to the record shop and it was there, and he wanted it, and he saved his. And when he got there and paid it, and it saved for weeks, and it felt like a lifetime, and he finally got that.
Yeah.
You know, I love that.
You're gonna have to.
But everyone was doing that, but everyone had. It's not like like what I've got here, but everyone had one album each, so you'd have to go to you'd go around each other's houses, and
that's it.
I'll lend you the new Led Zeppelin if you lend me the new Rush, and and you had the headphones and this big thing that folded apart.
Well, that's the
fell into it, and I could just imagine this album.
I certainly remember when I first got this, and I was just I had it on and listening to it through the headphones and just poring over the lyrics and just looking at it. And of course, as we said last week, on the inner sleeve, I can't remember if it's on the CD, but lo and behold, you've got the man. They're simple. You've got it on here as well.
Yeah, I've got the little LP replicas, but you also get a book in this box.
You've got the book, and it's got that on it anyway, hasn't it?
You got the lyrics.
Yeah.
And yes, you do get that as well.
That's it. You got it as well. That's it. Which, as we said last week, it would stick around for quite a few years, that symbol for Rush. And I just remember that. And there'd be times I think I'd be just listening to this, and you just get totally absorbed by it. Totally absorbed. And it's a great way to pass the time. You're enjoying listening to this album, and you're getting inspired by it, and just loving it, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was it was Alan Averill. It was the podcast. He's a Irish singer in a metal band called Primordial, and he was saying about this the other day, where what he was I can't remember what he was talking about now, but what he was making the point of Spotify, everything now is instant. I wonder what that album's like. You would look in a record shop and see the album cover and go, I wonder what that album's like. And you'd imagine what it was like.
Yeah.
And you'd get he says he's not having a go at anyone, but what's this? Clickety, clickety, click, bang. And it's on your phone, and it's on you straight away. It's instant. It's there.
Yeah.
He went, but it's easy for someone to say, oh, this album's overrated, or that album's a bit crap. What a cliche. Everyone says that's a classic, but but did you wash cars for a month, saving up your money, and then got an hour and a half bus ride into town to the nearest record shop? Flicking for the and it's there because you saw it there last time, and you've been thinking about this album cover that looked cool for the whole month, and you've gone, here you go, and it's a fight, and
that's it. Yeah,
it's mine, and then you get it on the bus home, and you're looking on the bus on the thing, you're reading the lyrics, you're reading these lyrics that you haven't even heard yet, and it's magic, and you put the earphone in.
It's a real journey,
and you hear that. He says
exactly.
You're just not invested. They're not invested the way we were.
That's it. We had to strive for it. I mean, for me, it was I did a paper round. And that's what I did, and it was basically just saving that money to get the next album. It was, and you've put a bit of yourself into it to get it. So I think you just valued it more. You just valued it and appreciated it more. I think that's the main thing. And then you think, it was worth buying it. Definitely worth buying it. It's a good album, etc. And then, of course,
I'm trying to think of the album that he was talking about. It was something like Metallica. It was a mainstream, you get it on Spotify. It's a throwaway album now, but it's easy for you to say that is a cliche album. But did you work all month to save up in order to buy it? And have you got this original copy that's He's like, my copy of that album is older than you.
Mm.
It's you know, it's that aspect of it.
Yeah,
he's an interesting character actually. His podcast. He was one of the few that questioned the narrative during the dark times, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He was one of the few in the metal scene that went, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd really like to get him on the show actually, and really, I'd love to, because as much as he's got this back catalogue under his belt as it is, he talks about, he shows off his album collection, and you could talk for a good hour with him just about.
Oh yeah, records. Absolutely. Yeah, you never know, Joe. You might get a chance, mightn't you?
I can't see it being too far a possibility, but it's I just need to get that segue in. But
yeah, hey,
that's another show anyway.
That's something for another time.
Who knows? He might be a Rush fan. Yeah, if you know Alan Averill,
you never know.
Send him this.
Yeah, it's I think the notes on the end of the album, the thank yous, they had about 1,000 nicknames for each other: Dirk, Lurkst, and Pratt, and these are nicknames for each of them. Lee, Lifeson, and Peart, respectively, and they would always. And he says 2 notable omissions from the liner notes: Xanadu and Cinderella Man, while both based on other works, there's no mention of Kubla Khan or Mr. Deed Goes to Town. There's no mention of them on the credits in any way. And then, of course, the nice thing, and again, probably in line with what the song Madrigal dedicated to their wives, Nancy, Charlene, and Jacqueline.
It may be a copyright issue because
possibly
again, I'm bringing Iron Maiden up, but Iron Maiden did The Prisoner, which had a sample of Patrick McGowan at the beginning.
Okay, yeah.
And they had to ask Patrick McGowan's permission, and he gracefully granted that permission. But they, on the next album, they had a song which was called "To Tame a Land," but I don't think that was the original title. But that song was originally based on June by Frank Herbert.
Yeah.
And Frank Herbert didn't give them permission to use. I get it. Why to use the song? They wrote the song, but apparently it was based on June, so therefore they had to run it by Frank Herbert. And he said, "No, heavy metal is crap music for idiots."
Okay.
And I don't grant you permission. So I think they had to slightly amend the lyrics.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the song must have originally been called Dune or something like that. But yeah, that's To Tame a Land was originally, or still kind of is.
Yeah.
It's not based on June.
Yeah.
Not wink, wink. But so yeah, I know Maiden would have had to have asked for permission. So maybe if
it could well be the same
film,
thing,
they would have had to have.
Yeah.
If they'd expressively put it on paper, this is based on that film. It must have. That some copyright thing must have come into it. Sure. Yeah.
You're probably
based
right.
on that.
Yeah. You're probably right.
So that means either Iron Man did grant permission,
or she didn't, and I just did it,
or the estate granted it. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember when she.
Because the fact that they did.
Yeah.
Mention her.
Yeah, I think, but they must have sought. I would have thought they would sought permission. So
I think if she was alive and they did ask her permission in a hypothetical scenario, she would have recognised. Well, these people are taking on what I've said and appreciate it, so that's good. I don't know the first thing about music, but these people are obviously striving for excellence, which is what I'm all about. Yeah, I could say that.
Yeah.
Getting her seal of approval.
Yeah, definitely.
Pushing the envelope and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's it. I've got nothing more to say about the album. It's got a special place in my heart. First Rush album I actually bought, and so loved the track Xanadu and Cygnus X1. But the whole album is good. I can't. There's no weak song on there at all. Not to me.
Yeah, and I see it just as a continuation, another layer of a fantastic body of work that's being built layer upon layer, and it's going to continue going forward. I'm having a really good time at the moment listening to these albums, for spending a week with these albums, and as it comes up to doing an episode, we're in a good little routine at the moment. And it's a shame to let the album go, but on the other hand, I'm looking forward to the episode to be done so I can move on to the next album.
Indeed.
So a farewell to Kings, and then next episode we'll be doing Hemispheres. Indeed. And I hope you join us for that. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening. And as ever, thank you, and leave us a comment. What do you think of A Farewell to Kings? What's your favourite song? What do you think of the lyrics? How do you interpret them? You can, again, use this, listening to this as you go. Work your way through the catalogue like we are. Spend a week with the album. Use this as an introduction, or listen to the album for a week and use this as your Friday night reward at the end, or however you want to do it, in any order you like. And I think this is what these are for. This is your guide through the back catalogue as you listen to the catalogue as well. And then you listen to this, and God, I wish I could join in and chip in. Well, you can in the comment section below. Let us know what you think, and give us one of them. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you on Rushcast next week.
Yeah. Have a good week, everyone. Cheers, Joe.
Take care. See you
soon. See you later. Bye.